Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Salatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. So inshallah, we'll continue our discussion on Surah Nisa, the chapter number 4. I'm on page number 43. If you have this version of the Quran, page 43, we'll be working on verses 19 and onward. And we finished the discussion about inheritance, and in fact, it's going to continue a little bit further. But the discussion over here today will be the rights of the woman and whom we can marry and certain other things. Some things you might find disturbing because remember, this is the time when the woman had no rights in the world. In Arabia, in this particular land, the baby girls were buried alive because the families felt ashamed that I have a girl, how can I show my face to my tribal leaders? So this is in fact close to the Haram, Makkah, the Kaaba. There is a small patch of land, and I always, when I take the group of people, I always show them, this is the land, right very close to the Kaaba. This is where the baby girls were buried alive. And every single time I go there and I cry. The girls are the most beautiful things Allah has created. Most precious thing. I have one daughter, I can tell you, the most precious things. And certain things were done in that community and the rest of the world as well. Remember, Jewish and Christians, the Christians did not even believe they're humans. They did not even believe they have souls. This is the kind of issues we are dealing with. So when you find those, because in Islam, everything was gradual. When you accept Islam, it's not like overnight you have to be a practicing Muslim. It's going to take you time. You probably have a boyfriend, you probably have a girlfriend, you probably are living with the interest-based banking or other kind of things. It's going to take some time to gradually accept and embrace fully. So some of those things when we read, so don't think that it has something to do with Islam. In fact, Islam gradually removed every single thing. Remember the alcohol. The people of Makkah and Medina, they had loads and loads of alcohol. So the first commandment came that alcohol is bad for you. It has some benefits, but it is bad for you. The second commandment came, when you are drunk, don't pray. Don't go to the congregation prayer. The third commandment came, today God has forbidden every narcotic in your lifetime. And the city of Medina was flooded with alcohol at that particular day. So everything is gradual. So when people migrated from Mecca to Medina, and we discussed that extensively, we had very handful of Muslims. In fact, we discussed the Battle of Uhud, and there were 1,000 people who went to the battle, and 300 people, 30% of returned back to Medina because they were the hypocrites. So there are a large number of hypocrites. There are a large number of people who are very weak, had a weak faith. But of course, at the same time, the greatest human beings were present at that time. And that's how we have 2 billion plus Muslims in the world because of their hard work. So I'm going to pick up the verse number 19 on page 43, and we'll spend a little bit of time discussing it. O believers, it is not permissible for you to inherit women against their will, or mistreat them to make them return some of the dowry as a ransom for divorce, unless they are found guilty of adultery. So whenever the widow was there, the people, their cousins or uncles or other brothers, they inherited the woman in the inheritance. So somebody died, so automatically the woman had no right to marry somebody else. No right to say, you know what, I want to not be part of this family. I want to start another family. They had no rights. So they were treated as commodity. So they were inherited in inheritance. So that's what Allah is saying here. It is not permissible for you to inherit women. Imagine, it looks like a very strange idea here because we are talking about 21st century. We're not talking about 1,000 years earlier. So women had absolutely no rights. And in fact, in Islam, remember the hadith? The Sahabi, the companion, came to the Prophet. Who comes after God? Louis, do you know the hadith? Who can help? Your mother. Who comes after mother? Your mother. Who comes after mother? your mother. God, mother, 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 then your father. This is the right given to the woman. After Allah is the mother, 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 and then father. This is the right given to the woman. A person who has one daughter raises that daughter very nicely, in the best way possible. He has one gate of paradise open for that. He has two daughters, two gates he can enter into paradise. Three daughters, three gates are open to the paradise. And the Prophet said the best men in our community is the best who the best to their wives. So this is the right Islam gave to the woman. So this is what Allah is saying. You cannot inherit women against their will or mistreat them to make them return some of the dowry as a ransom. Also, when the people divorced at a time, they basically took all the dowry. Dowry is a gift. You give it to woman in a cash form, so she's protected. She has some kind of a protection if the husband dies or there's a divorce, so she can use that money to meet her financial needs. Unless they're found guilty of adultery, of course, in adultery, that's you have to go through a legal process. Treat them fairly. Treat your woman fairly. Allah is asking you. They're human beings. They're going to make mistakes. Look at your own self. You're going to make mistakes. Treat them fairly. If you happen to dislike them, you may hate something which God turns into a great blessing. So a lot of people, they don't look like models. When you spend 5 or 10 minutes with them, you think they are the most amazing human beings. If they don't have the looks you're looking for, you'll find something else. They might be the best cook. They might be the most loving human being. They might be the best mothers. They might have so many other qualities. So remember, the 4 things Prophet had told us when we marry. I don't need to go into detail, but the last thing is the looks. It's good to have looks. It's good to have 6.5 feet tall guy. But what if he's 5'9" like me? I was rejected so many times. You are not 6 feet. You didn't go to UCLA. You went to Cal. So what? So if you have a good mate, he meets the criteria. He is Muslim or she is Muslim. They have the wisdom. They are smart enough to live life with. You can communicate with them. You can talk to them. You are the same level. Don't marry completely uneducated. And vice versa. So, and they also have the similar goals. They're hardworking. God will give you everything. They're 21 years old. How are they going to have a house? I was rejected. You don't own a house. How can you own a house when you're in college? It's going to take you time. So please understand, God is telling you, if you do not like something, you probably like something else. So, and then I have a lot of things to talk about, but I'm not going to spend too much time. In fact, the Holy Prophet said, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, in all the lawful things, divorce is the most reprehensible thing in Islam. So all the divorce is allowed. In Islam, it takes only a few minutes to divorce. The first divorce, the second divorce, or the third divorce. It's very simple. Everything is simplified. Unlike Catholicism, you cannot divorce. What if he is the worst serial killer? Islam is easy. You want to marry someone, takes 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You can marry someone. Islam says don't have sexual relationship without getting married. Same thing, Allah made it divorce easy for you. So also Rasulullah said, enter into marriage, and Allah does not approve such men or women who marry for sexual relationships, who marry for sexual enjoyment. This is another hadith from the Prophet. So it is perfectly fine. Sexual needs are natural. You want to have sexual relationship, it's very easy. Come to the masjid, takes only 5-10 minutes. You have 2 witnesses. I'll be one. Khalid is sitting here. We'll find easily. We'll find somebody from anywhere. So we can easily find witnesses, and you can have, but you must have a dowry for the wife. The dowry is some kind of cash. So she's kind of has some kind of safety net. So it's very easy for you. So number 20, if you desire to replace a wife with another one, it was easy to replace wife at that time. Easy. You buy them. There were slave girls everywhere. You can do whatever you want. They were treated like commodity, like I stated. And you have given the former even a stack of gold as a dowry. Do not take any one of it back. So if you have given her $10,000, let's say that's the dowry you decided. After a year, you realize that's not a good match. It happens. Don't take it back. This is the commandment of Allah. Don't take it back. Why? Would you still, Allah is asking this rhetorical question, would you still take it unjustly and very sinfully? And how could you take it back after having enjoyed each other intimately and she has taken from you a firm commitment? When you married her, you said, I do, I do, I do. She did the same thing. You promised each other, we are here for each other for the rest of life. Now she has a child, she gained some weight, and suddenly you don't love her? What is the difference between you and an animal? Please excuse my language. You don't love people for body. You love people as a whole. Imagine you go to your mother, let's say she's 67, 69, whatever the age is. You say, I wish, Mom, you had a different nose. I would have loved you more. I wish you were six feet tall. I would have loved you more. We don't talk like that. Even when you have a Down syndrome children, we still love them with our heart. Doesn't really matter. They're humans. They're Allah's creation. We don't love people just for bodies. We don't put fake stuff, put injections here and put things in other parts of the body. We don't do that. We are the way Allah created. If Allah asks me, do you want a different nose? I'll say, no, this is exactly how you created me. Make me again exactly the same way. This is how you loved me. This is how you created me. Don't worry about the skin color. Remember, I always say, denying diversity is denying God. You are a liar if you say you believe in God and you hate black people or you hate other people with other colors. This is Allah's creation. You live in Norway for 100 years, of course your skin color is going to change. You live in savannah in Africa, your skin color is going to change. That's natural. They are not inferior that you buy 12 to 20 million from Africa and bring them here to do your farming. Instead of bringing bulls from other parts of the world, they brought people to force them, and 3-4 million poor people died in the whole process. 30% of them were Muslims who were kidnapped and brought here as slaves. 30% were Muslims, or approximately. So we are, when you enjoy them and don't take back the gifts you gave it to them. There's a lot of discussion on that one. I am not going to spend too much time on it. It's just that one of the law in Islam is, which the Jewish people did and still do it tremendously, this hair splitting. Don't just waste your time things which you have no control on it. Don't just waste your time on useless things. Have the general principle understanding of Islam and leave the things which have nothing to do with Islam. One of the principles is anything which does not concern you, leave it. That's the principle of Islam. You see, he's doing something has nothing to do with me, and he doesn't come to me for an advice. I need to leave him alone. I don't need to spy on him. Also, another principle of Islam, anything which is doubtful, because the Quran gives you the clear guidelines which is haram, but 35-40 things they're forbidden. Don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal, don't murder, don't have sexual relationship without getting married. 30 or 40 things. And the halal things are clearly visible. You can eat these things, you can have these relationships. There are things which will be doubtful based on your circumstances. The principle of Islam is anything which is doubtful, don't do it. Don't do it. And there'll be an opportunity for you, or there'll be a situation you will feel that there's something which will happen in your lifetime. It's doubtful. Your heart says don't do it. Your mind says it's fun. And you're fighting. There's a fight between heart and mind. And by the way, the conflict between heart and mind, that's psychological problems. Heart is saying do something else. Mind is saying do something else. You have depression. You have anxiety. You have all sorts of other issues. I'm oversimplifying it, but I hope you understand what I'm saying here. So I'm going to move on to just want to highlight one more thing. Okay, I'm going to move on to number 22. Do not marry former wives of your fathers. Who would marry wives of the father? People did it. People did it. And that's why Allah is saying it's forbidden. Except what was done previously. Islam always says if happened previously, don't punish them. Yes, at the time, they were ordered to divorce them. If they were married to their mothers, they were ordered to divorce them. And I'm going to come and explain it to you why this was a big problem for certain people. Because this was their lifestyle. Do not marry former wives of your fathers, except what was done previously. It was indeed a shameful, despicable, and evil practice. You say, people really do that? What if I tell you people do it now? They have sexual relationship we call incest. Millions and millions of people do it. This is very common. You say, well, no, you are just bringing this controversial issue. That's what Islam is making it clear. And it's going to highlight in the next page, individual, every single person will be highlighted. You cannot marry these people because people were doing it. People still do it. So, also forbidden to you for marriage are your mothers. And you can start writing down mothers, your daughters, your sisters, your paternal and maternal aunts, your father's sister, your mother's sister, your brother's daughters, your nieces, your sister's daughters, again from sister side, your nieces, your foster mothers. These are the mothers who fed you milk, you suckled, and you are not allowed to marry them or their daughters. The foster sisters are also in Islam forbidden. They are like your real sisters. Your foster sisters, your mother-in-law, your stepdaughters. You say, well, stepdaughter has different blood. She belongs to a different guy. Allah says, don't do it. We don't ask questions. Why would you marry your stepdaughter? I can name so many actors they're married to their adopted children, adopted daughters, or one of these individuals. Under your guardianship. They're under your guardianship. If you have consummated marriage with their mothers, if you had relationship with your mothers, you got married to them, then those stepdaughters are forbidden to you. But if you have not, it means you never had consummated marriage with them. If you had no relationship with their mothers, then it means, but again, you might be thinking, I'm 24, the only age range I want to marry is 24 to 26 and 28 maybe maximum. This was not the rule at that time. 70-year-old, his brother dies, he takes his wife and children and he marries nieces and whatever. Automatically he has 15 wives now. This was a practice in Jahiliyyah. Jahiliyyah is, the ignorance is not the right word. What is a strong word, Jahiliyyah? Uncivilized, extreme uncivilized people. They were so uncivilized, the Roman Empire and the Persian Empire never made an attempt to conquer that area. They said, these are stupid people. Who would go there? There's nothing, there's no architecture, there's no literature. 99% of the people are uneducated. Why we are going to waste our time to go to this land? There's no reason. Question is, why the Jewish people living there? Because the Torah said the next prophet, the last prophet will come there. They were waiting. Every sign said he will be there. This is what it's going to look like. When he came, they said, no, you are not the Messiah. Messiah came to them. Jesus was the Messiah, the Savior. And they tried to kill him. And this was in their books. He's going to come in Medina. He came in Medina. That's why they were sticking around. 3 of those tribes were sticking around there. So, but if you have not, then you can marry them. Nor the wives of your own sons, your daughter-in-laws. Nor 2 sisters at the same time. This was very common practice in Arabia. Two sisters were wives at the same time. One sister dies or divorced, then you can marry the other sister if that's the circumstance. And you say, well, I just want one husband, one wife. But that's not the nature of a man. If you know man is lustful. I know I'm a man, I can tell you. They are different from women. Marry, many of them, for emotional companionship, for communication, for having a partner. Men marry for lust, for their eyes. So many of these men, they had no boundaries, absolutely no boundaries. So this is what Quran is highlighting there. No two sisters together at the same time, except, again, Quran always says, except what was done before. Surely God always highlights his traits, his names, all forgiving, most merciful. That whatever happened in the past, do not go and punish them, do not penalize them, but yes, they have to divorce. Now this became a big problem. This became a big problem because a lot of Jewish people in the Medina area and also the Ansar, the people who converted to Islam, they had these relationships. And for them, this was a big deal. To let go two sisters, divorce one sister and just keep one sister, or divorce one of the rich mother-in-law, she got a lot of money. So how do you let go those things? So this became a problem, and that's why there were so many hypocrites in that area. They said, okay, there might be some benefit to pretend I'm Muslim, but I'm going to continue to practice my old lifestyle. Number 24, also forbidden are married women, except female captives in your possession. They were, like I said, they were slaves all over. And I actually have mentioned the slaves were not the free people. These were the people, generational slaves. These were the people slaves and their children slaves and their children slaves. So Allah actually gave the permission, when you marry them, give them honor and free them. And gradually in Arabia, all these slave people, male and female, they became free. In fact, whenever you make a mistake, you break a fast, free a slave. You make a mistake in your promise, you break a promise, free a slave. Allah made it easier. And also the slaves at that time in Arabia, Allah ordered, remember it's a gradual process. This is going on for thousands of years. That Allah said, whatever you eat, they must eat the same thing. Whatever shelter they have, they must have the same shelter. You must give them honor. You cannot mistreat them. So they became exactly their own brothers and sisters. And gradually, integration of these slave ladies into the community and became some of the greatest Muslim scholars were the children of these ladies who were previously slaves. And they were freed and they became some of the greatest scholars we have.
If I can just add something
Sure, go ahead.
About slavery. When we hear the word slavery, due to how dark this country's history is, right? We have a certain image of what that word means. But slavery, obviously, like Dr. Tahir said, existed for thousands of years before America even existed. The transatlantic slave trade was the most horrid human experience ever. And so in societies throughout history, many societies, slavery existed, obviously, but it has to be noted that what we think of as slavery today in what the context of American history was not the same as what slavery, the experience of slavery in the past. Not saying that it was a good thing, but there are two different things. Scholars have gone into the history of slavery throughout world history, and basically slaves in these different societies were not, they weren't as mistreated. Not saying that they weren't, but we have to make that distinction, right? So keep that in mind when you hear about slavery in the Quran and in Islamic history and other histories as well. That, slaves, like in Mecca, for example, there were only like a few dozen slaves. There weren't that many slaves like you had here, millions of slaves, like Dr. Tahir was saying again. So
So it's a gradual process. Remember, these are ingrained traits in those people about alcohol, about slavery, about marriages, and all these things. It's a gradual process. And alhamdulillah, by the time the Prophet passed away, he was 63. By the way, when Moses and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, these are the only two prophets in the human history. They were not only the prophets and messengers, but they were the rulers, they were the commanders, they led the armies, and they actually created a kind of society. Prophet Moses did not succeed at the end because they were wandering in the desert for 40 years. They could not even enter. When they decided to come back to Palestine and they refused, they said, you and your God go and fight. We're going to stick around here. The Prophet had conquered everything you can imagine. By the time 10, 15 years after, they actually defeated the Romans, the superpower. They defeated the Persian, the superpower. So this is how quickly Islam spread. So these practices were there in Arabia and in the surrounding countries. Remember, I always tell you there were only 3 continents at that time. 3 known continents to the major, the Africa, the Europe, and the Asia. People had not discovered, mostly people had not discovered Australia, North America, South America, and Antarctica. That happened much, much later. So this is God's commandment to you. Lawful to you are all beyond these. So God is saying, has mentioned so many different relationships. All those are forbidden. Others are lawful. Can I marry my cousin according to this criteria? Yes, you can marry your cousin. Americans say, what? That's your real brother and sister. That's what we treat it as. But is it recommended to marry your cousin? No. I'm not married to my cousin. So, but it is allowed. Can I marry somebody I meet in college? Sure. It doesn't meet this criteria. So anybody other than these relations, God is saying you can marry. You can marry lawful to you all beyond these, as long as you seek them with your wealth in a legal marriage, not in a fornication. Don't marry one night stand. You're going to hear from Shia Muslims, and the Shia Muslim, if I have a chance, I'll talk about it. They will have one night stand. They will meet a girl somewhere, say, well, let's have sex. They will do prayer. I'm sorry, it's going to record and it's going to be a lot of bad things, comments, but they will have sex, and after that, okay, now I'm divorcing you after 30 minutes. This is haram. This is wrong. Okay, so don't marry somebody for fornication. So give those you have consummated marriage with their due dowries, which is a gift of, and the marriage is a long-term contract. Marriage is a contract that I'm supporting her and she's supporting me. We are complementing each other. She doesn't need to be like you. My wife is completely, again, she's going to get really mad, very different from me. We don't have anything in common. But that's how you build relationship. Now we found so many things in common. So initially, in Islam, you fall in love after you get married. And you say, well, how that's possible? You will figure it out once you find a decent human being. You don't fall in love and spend time and do all those things before marriage. You do it after you get married. It doesn't mean that I can't communicate and learn about them. Yes, you can. You can spend time and investigate and talk to them. But it has to be within the boundaries of Allah, which Allah has presented. It is permissible to be mutually gracious regarding the said dowry, which means a lot of girls, they are not married, they're 36, 37, they want a $1 million dowry here in the US, here in California. Which guy has a $1 million sitting around? He's 28, 26. I don't know many of them. I didn't have one. I think when I got married, I had left maybe, again, my wife is going to get really mad, but maybe $7,000 in my bank account. She's from Maryland. I'm from California. She never visited me. Her parents never visited me. They trusted me. And they said, okay, we like you. And Allah blessed us tremendously. So if you ask for such huge dowry, that I know one lady, she said, I need 5-carat diamond ring. I said, I don't have money for 5-carat diamond ring. I'm a student. I just finished my school just recently. I don't have that money. I walked away. So be careful what you're asking for, especially when you're young. Allah already has how much money you're gonna make. It's already written down. When we go to work, we are just like treasure hunting. We are looking for the treasure. Allah has already hidden those things in different jobs and different opportunities. So it is permissible to be mutually gracious regarding the set dowry. Surely Allah is all-knowing, all-wise. Alim al-Hakim. Again, Allah will reference these attributes throughout, almost in every page of the Quran. I'm going to move on. And this is again marrying the women who were slaves at that time. But if you cannot afford to marry a free believing woman, then let them marry a believing bondwoman, which is a slave woman possessed by one of you. How that's possible? In the wars, remember we have discussed the wars. The people, they killed all the people who captured. And Islam said, don't kill them. So in fact, in the Badr time, the first battle happened in Medina. So there were 3 choices given. One, if somebody from Makkah brings some kind of ransom, some kind of money, and they can free that person. That was choice number 1. Choice number 2 was that this individual can teach something to Muslims. He can teach 7 Muslims how to read and write. Remember, though a lot of people were uneducated in Medina, so that was another way to free them. And the third one is you set your prison, and there were no prisons at that time. So either you integrate them into the society, if you feel that these people can be integrated, or they become your slaves. This is how it was. So they didn't capture free people and made them slaves. This is how mostly in the wars, so these are the people, these are the ladies you can marry at that time. Remember, this is at the time, the 3rd Hijri or 4th Hijri, which is when the Prophet moved from Mecca to Medina. This is the 3rd or 4th year, immediately after the the Battle of Uhud, which happened in the 3rd Hijri. So this particular surah chapter was revealed in the 3rd to 5th Hijri. God knows the best of the state of your faith and theirs. You're from the another. And also, I just want to highlight the free ladies. They had families, they have fathers, and they had families and brothers and sisters and mothers. They learned few etiquettes, few kind of systems which the slave ladies did not have, or slave men did not have, because they never had those families in place. They were maltreated. And second thing is, once you actually marry these people, integrate these people, and they actually started joining the protection of the family. Because these were highly tribal societies. They had only tribes. You belong to a certain tribe, you have a certain right. You don't have right, belong to a tribe, you have absolutely no protection whatsoever. One of the greatest human being, one of my most favorite human being in the history of mankind, after after prophets, is Bilal. Who was Bilal? Sister Morena?
Who is Bilal? I don't remember.
Anybody? Joe? So he was a slave. He was beaten to death. He was beaten so much. He was black from Ethiopia. He was kidnapped from a very good family, noble family. And he was brought as a young child in Mecca. And he was really badly treated. When he learned there's a prophet of God who believes in one God, he learned only one word, Ahad. Ahad means one. So his owner, he beat him so much, they put rocks on his body on a hot sand, and he was dying. And it's a long story. This is the person who knew only one word, Ahad, Ahad, Ahadun, Ahad, Ahad. And later on, many years later, the companions asked, why did you constantly were saying Ahad, Ahad? He said only he knew one word of Islam. There's one God, one God, one God, one. He only said one. And this person who did not have Arabic accent. Of course, he's not from Arabia. He's from Ethiopia. He's a black slave. He became the most important person of the human history, Islamic history. He became the person who gave adhan, the call to the prayer. He was the person, of course, he had accent probably like me or maybe worse. I actually fantasize. I'm telling you in recording, I fantasize, I wish I can become his slave. This is the kind of honor Allah gave and the Prophet gave it to him. In fact, Umar and Abu Bakr used to call him master. These are the greatest human beings. Abu Bakr was the closest friend and the first ruler after Prophet, and Umar is the second ruler, one of the most amazing human being ever. They used to call him master. They said, you are our master. When Prophet went to the Miraj, to the heavens, when he was invited by God, Prophet heard the steps in the paradise. This is in Sahih Hadith. And he asked Jibril, what are these steps I hear in the paradise? He said, these are the steps of the Bilal. Bilal is still alive in Medina. These are the steps you're hearing from Bilal, in Makkah, at that time. So this is the honor somebody gives you when you become Muslim. This person had absolutely no rights. And this person became, and then when Prophet passed away, he could not live there anymore, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he was crying all the time. He could not give adhan. He left for Syria. And one time he came back to Medina and people begged him to give adhan, the call to the prayer. He said, I can't. I remember the Prophet so much, I can't. And then he gave the adhan and the entire Medina was crying. This is the kind of human being we are talking about. So when you read about the slavery, this is what Allah is integrating these people who had no rights, bringing to the highest level of honor. So this is the honor we give. You guys attended, many of you, mass convention. Look at the people who were leading our prayers. They were African American converts. The people giving the speeches, the African American or white converts. They didn't look like me or look like Khalid. They look like the integration of the society. Anybody who is pious person, male or female, they have the highest status in Islam. Doesn't matter what your skin color. Doesn't matter you have functioning legs or functioning eyes, or doesn't really matter. These are irrelevant things. So please understand, when you read that stuff, so Islam is trying to integrate them into the society, give them the protection of the tribal societies. At that time, they had no protection whatsoever. So I'm going to continue. So marry them with the permission of the owners. So go to the owners of these slave owners, marry them. So integrate them to the society, giving them their dowry in fairness. If they are chaste, neither promiscuous or not having any secret affairs, because remember, they did not have the understanding of the family etiquettes or the mannerism of because they did not have the families. Generation after generation after generation, they were slaves. So they did not understand how to behave. So if they commit indecency after marriage, they receive half the punishment of the normal free people. Why have the punishment? Again, they did not have the understanding of the family upbringing, and they did not have those kind of teachings. This is for those who you have fear falling into sin. But if you are patient, Allah is reminding, if you're patient, it is better for you. Be patient with your spouses. Your spouse is going to make a mistake. God knows how many thousands of mistakes I make with my wife every single day. God knows. And I'm glad that she's able to this is our 23rd year of marriage. So we are married for 23 years. And I told her, you're 100 pounds or 500 pounds. I use the same example. I'm going to be with you. Doesn't really matter. You don't you say, okay, let me check your weight, then I'm going to marry you. You don't marry a weight. You marry a person. You marry a person which is a spiritual, emotional, which has intellect, of course, physical body, of course, who has psychological and emotional stability. You find that person. You find that commonality. And if you find that commonality, you're going to be different. Like I said, I tell my wife, let's go this way, and then I turn around, she's going in that way. It's always the case. We are different, and it is perfectly fine. It is perfectly fine. As long as you find common ground. And the common ground is your faith. Common ground is your children, maybe your household, maybe your vacation. We have traveled so many places together. And alhamdulillah, God will, all of you will be blessed with good spouses. And inshallah, if you're not married, inshallah, you will have a person who will love you for the sake of love, not because of your body, because you're going to get old. And trust me, when you get old, you're not going to be that guys that lose their hair. I'm losing my mind of losing my hair. I cannot tell you. I used to have such thick hair. And they're going to have big bellies. Women, they're going to have wrinkles. And Pamela Anderson, if you want what I'm saying, look at Pamela Anderson 30 years, and now look at Pamela Anderson now. Then you will understand this body is temporary. So the attraction is temporary. But when you fall in love with that person, with the personality, you're in there forever. Just like you're in love with your mom. Doesn't matter what moms look like when they're 80 years old, you still love them. And I always give you my own example. If I have to save my mom and I have to give 1,000 lives, I'll give 1,000 lives. This is how you love your mom. Doesn't matter they're Muslim or non-Muslim, you love them. You don't, even if they are toxic to you. I know some of us, we have toxic parents, toxic relationships. Thanksgiving is the worst time people to gather. It's politics, and I'm Republican, I'm Democrat, but you love them for sake of love because they gave you the birth. You're on this world because of them. So this is where we are referring to the integration. In 26, it is God's will to make things clear to you. God is telling you, after discussing all these different things, guide you to the noble ways of those before you and turn to you in mercy. For God is, again, God's attributes, all-knowing, all-wise. Repetition of God is reminding that you might say, you know what? Why didn't you put the cousin here? He is all-knowing, all-wise. Why did you put this person here? My stepdaughter. I want to marry my stepdaughter. First, you need some kind of medical evaluation. That there are 4 billion women, and you want to do only what God is prohibiting you. So, and it is God's will to turn you to you in grace. For those who follow their desires, wish to see you deviate entirely from God's way. Now, they were, remember, in Medina, they were hypocrites. They were Ansar, the local people of Medina, and they were Jewish people. There are 3 Jewish tribes. They were very upset about after revelation of these verses. They were upset because they had centuries-old traditions which included the share of the daughters in inheritance. They were upset. You're giving inheritance to a woman? Jewish people wouldn't do it, and Ansar of the Medina, the people who converted into Islam, they were not giving inheritance to the woman. And in the previous discussion, we talked about the inheritance of women. So they were very upset about number 1. Number 2, they were upset because, and the second thing, the freedom of the widow from the restrictions placed on her by her husband's people. When she became widow, she had no rights. She could not marry. She could not move back with her family. She was like a property. They were upset about that one too, that now you're giving a right to a widow. We never gave these rights to widow. That she can marry somebody she likes. How dare you, she can marry somebody she likes. Number 3, the prohibition of marriage with stepmother. That was very common practice. What you will think about it. Why stepmother? Why there? Because all the possessions, if she got any possessions of her own, get those possessions, at the same time get from the father also. So basically controlling all the money, all the resources. And with the 2 real sisters, but also simultaneously they would marry 2 real sisters. So these were the things which made them very upset. And in fact, another thing was the Islam also abolished the inheritance for adopted children. In Islam, adopted children do not get inheritance. You can give anything in your lifetime. If I have an adopted child, I cannot give my last name to that adopted child. And that's discussion we are going to have later in the Quran. So you give them the honor of their original identity. You don't change the identity. If their last name is certain of their original father's last name, keep the same last name. Don't change their last name. Same thing, you can give them anything in your lifetime to them, anything you want. But after you die, only your biological children will have the inheritance. And that discussion we had in the past. So they were upset about that one. Another thing which made them upset was that they started spreading rumor because a lot of people were born in Medina and in those tribal societies with sexual relationship without marriage, like with fornication. And these people suddenly were not getting inheritance. The people who are born out of wedlock have no inheritance in Islam. And now they are spreading rumors that now this person who claims to be a prophet is telling you are illegitimate. Islam always says whatever happened in the past, you cannot punish them in the past. But the laws of Islam are very clear that these people, they don't have an inheritance. So this is how these people got very upset about, because they said you're making certain things which were lawful for us for centuries. By the way, these things are not in Torah. They added all these things into Judaism. These things did not exist in Torah. The original commandments. We're not talking about the things, articles written by them. Talmud. Talmud is something they added later on. We are talking about the original Torah, which is the Torah given to Moses, peace be upon him. All right, so I'm gonna move forward, inshallah. In number 28, and it is God's will to lighten your burdens, for humankind was created weak. So humans are very weak people, weak in their judgment, weak in their logic. Something you say LGBT right now, 20 years ago, everybody was making LGBT, fun of LGBT in every show, every movie. Go and watch Eddie Murphy movies. Everybody's making fun of them. Now suddenly they have certainly same thing with drugs. 30 years ago, there were no drugs here, legal drugs. Everything is now in Portland area, Oregon. They already are making a small amount of cocaine legal. It's just a matter of time. Cocaine, heroin, everything will be legalized here. Go to Europe, go to Amsterdam. And I've been there, I've seen that how people are living their lives. Go to Hastings Street in Vancouver. Have you been to Vancouver? If you go a chance, you will see the worst of the humanity ever in your lifetime. Just drive here, fly here 3 hours, land in Vancouver airport and go to Hastings Street. It's a skid row kind of environment. You cannot imagine humans could be this low. This is what the drugs do to you. That's why they are forbidden in every shape and form. One drop of alcohol is as bad. No excuses of whatsoever. God says it's forbidden, it's forbidden. Yes, it has some benefits. The word alcohol is an Arabic word, came from Arabic language. It's an Arabic word. But you can change it to do other horrible things. And you can use grapes, such an amazing fruit, and make it yourself drunk as wine. We're going to move on. 29. O believers, do not devour one another's wealth illegally, but rather may trade by mutual consent. And do not kill each other or yourself. Surely God is ever merciful to you. So here, different scholars disagree. Some scholars say that the killing yourself means by doing these horrible things, it's like killing yourself. It's a example, or it's a simile given here. Some scholars say it explicitly means suicide. Suicide is forbidden in Islam in any circumstance. So the funniest people in our lifetime was what's his name? Robin Williams. And I always give his example. He made a movie. His wife committed a suicide in the movie. He goes to hell, brings her out from the hell, and guess what? He killed himself. Again, we can talk about the mental health issues and all those issues, but here God actually tells you cannot kill yourself. And when you make tattoos on your body, this is the trust of Allah. The body belongs to Allah. You say, no, you're lying. This is my body. Did you pay $100 for your hand or fingers? When did you purchase your body? This doesn't belong to you. This belongs to God. As a Muslim, we submit. Everything belongs to God. Everything in this universe belongs to God. We are here for a short time, and inshallah, we are tested here, and we are successful here. So do not kill yourself or others or yourself. Surely God is ever merciful. Even if you make a mistake, God is merciful. Turn back to God. Number 30, and whoever does this sinfully and unjustly will burn them in the fire. That is easy for God. Don't think about fire. Think about saving yourself and your families here and hereafter. And when you have a clean life here, you're going to have a very peaceful and beautiful life here. You're going to enjoy life here tremendously. I tell you, I enjoy life. It's not that hard. We make it hard. Life is not hard. You decide to make it hard. You say, well, what do you mean? I don't have parents. I had toxic parents. I was kicked out this and this and this and this. I agree. But now you have an ability to think. You have an ability to rebuild. We can't go back and change the past. I saw flaws in my own families. I saw flaws in my own extended family. I can't go back and change all that stuff. So number 31, if you avoid the major sins, and I have posted these major sins in our WhatsApp group, I have documented 45 or so, some people put up to 70, but it's between 40 to 70 major sins. This includes murder and lying and breaking a promise and all those fornication and adultery. We will absolve you of your lesser misdeeds. And I always give you an example of misdeed. Khalid is trying to get my attention and I don't pay attention to him, I ignore him. It's not a major sin, but it's wrong. And he sends me a text message asking for help and I ignore him. That's a minor sin. It's not a major sin. You see the difference? When you were driving Talim today from USC and you saw a bad driver and you probably thought about something and say, I'm going to say that word to him. That's not a major sin. That's a minor sin. So differentiate. Major sins are a handful of them. So save yourself from major sins. Allah will take you to the paradise if you save yourself from a major sin. Major sins, you are accountable. Major sin, abortion is a major sin. You're killing a person. You say, well, what are you talking about? It's my body, my right. You're wrong. It is not your body. It belongs to Allah. It is not your body. That as a Muslim we believe this, whatever it is, belongs to Allah. Given to me, what do I do for a short time on this world? So we'll talk about abortion some other time. Lesser misdeeds and admit you into the place of honor. Place of honor here is Jannah. I want to highlight some of the other violation of Allah's rights are major sins. Allah says fast in Ramadan. You don't fast. That's a major sin. Allah says give charity, 2.5% of your wealth to poor and needy. You don't give it. You say I want my Porsche, my favorite car, or this another. I already have a house, another house. So similarly, the rights of the parents, violation of the parents' rights. You stop talking to your parents, you have nothing to do with Islam. Please understand what I'm saying. Doesn't matter how they were with you. Don't stop communication with your parents. Parents are so important. Doesn't matter how much problem they give you. You're doing for sake of Allah. And also, the shirk is the greatest sin in Islam. Shirk is the associating God's attributes with anybody else. Muslims also commit shirk. Say how that's possible. Muslim is a person who believe in God and God's divinity and God is the creator. You go to so many Muslim countries, they go to the graves of these holy people, saints, and they ask things from those saints. That's a shirk. In Islam, you only turn to God. Is it haram to ask Khalid to give me a ride because I have a car breakdown? No, it's not haram. But you turn to God first. When you have a problem, turn to God first. Then, of course, you can turn to other people. Can I get a ride? Can you guide me? Can you help me? Can I borrow some money? But first station for us, for Muslim, is God. We never add there's nobody between you and God. If somebody tells you, please, I'm telling, because a lot of you are either new Muslim or not Muslim yet. If somebody tells you, I will be your intercessor, run away. Close your eyes and run away and don't talk to that person again. They're liars. In Islam, it's direct relationship between you and God. There's no pope. There are no saints. None of these things exist. So, but if you find some videos, people are worshipping these saints, they are mushrik. They are not, their names are Muslim, but they are not. Very common in India and Pakistan. Very common. And I'm going to tie with that sister Leah, when we talk about Sufism, I'll tell you why I'm so explicitly upset about that one, because also their divine laws, which is a prohibition Allah has put in the Quran, very strict prohibition, like eating pork, drinking alcohol. So these divine laws we do not break. So those are major sins also. Thirdly, the relationships with the humankind. Remember, there are 4 types of rights we have: the rights of Allah, the rights of people, self-rights, your own rights, and the rights of your surrounding, the trees, the river, the animals. We don't just go and kill all the dodo birds. You go to Australia, kill all the white people, kill all the foxes here, all the wildebeest here. It's a fun. It's hunting. It's forbidden in Islam. Allah's creation. This is Allah's creation. Same thing, your body has rights on you. You cannot do certain things to your body, like piercing here and there, and I'll be more sexually attractive, I put piercing. This is Allah's body. Does it mean I cannot have earrings as a lady? No, you can. We are talking about something self-harm in that way. So just wanted to highlight that one. Basically, it corrupts the human society. Also want to mention something here. The difference between fornication and adultery. We know the difference. The fornication, you were single, or you were not with another partner in any shape and form, and you have sexual relationship. That's a smaller sin as compared to adultery. Although fornication is a major sin, adultery is way more heinous because you were married and you had the sexual relationship. Then you have adultery with another married woman. That's a bigger problem than having adultery with a single woman. You see what I'm saying here? Then you have fornication or adultery with the neighbor's wife. That's major, bigger sin than the previous one. Please listen what I'm saying here. Fornication, adultery with single woman, adultery with married woman, adultery with or fornication with the neighbor's wife. The neighbors are part of your family. Neighbors have huge rights in Islam. So that's a major sin also. Then on bigger than that is incest. The people we have highlighted, your mothers, your sisters, your daughters, and all other people we have highlighted having fornication or adultery with them. These are way heinous crimes. And also having a major sin in the masjid as compared to the public place. God forbid you have sexual relationship inside the masjid. That is a major sin. So just wanted to put that one in perspective, that not every sin follows at the same level. So it intensity changes based on how and with whom and how that sin was committed. I'm almost in the last 2 verses, inshallah, then we'll end. And do not crave what God has given some of you over others. Men will be rewarded according to their deeds, and women are equally according to theirs. Rather ask God for his bounties. Surely God has perfect knowledge of all those things. So if somebody has beautiful face, other individual does not have a beautiful face, maybe Allah has given them other skills. Look into other skills. Some people can run really fast, like Usain Bolt. Some people can throw ball in a basket. Some people, they are good swimmers. Some people can hike. People have different skill set. Focus on yourself. Leave others alone. Leave the others alone. Don't compare yourself with others. You will be in misery. That's where the misery comes. You're always looking for Joneses, comparing with Joneses. You have $1 billion. I always give you an example in 2008, 2009, when we had the real estate bubble burst. The German billionaire who had 12 billion worth, he lost $4 billion. He killed himself. That all lost $4 billion. He still had $8 billion in his wealth. A billion has 1,000 million. Only 1.3 million Americans are millionaires. Very few. Very few. Most of you will, I'm sorry to break your heart, but you will not make $1 million. Most of the Americans will never make $1 million in their lifetime. But if you say, my goal is $1 million. Okay, what's that? 10 million. What's that? 100 million. You will never be satisfied. You will never be satisfied. So then you say, okay, billionaire. Their lives are not what you think. This is how we have created this. So this is where jealousy comes, cutthroat competition comes, enmity, class struggles, and like all other consequences that come with it. And the last verse, inshallah, and then I'll stop and I'll take some questions after that one. Verse number 33 is, and we have appointed heirs to what has been left by the parents and next of kin. As for those you have made a pledge to, and give them their share, surely God is witness for all things. So here, the heirs which we have discussed in inheritance in the last discussion also, the sons and the daughters and the wife, and they have specific percentages assigned to them. At the time of when this verse was revealed, the people of the Medina and people of Jewish tradition, they also had some friends, and they used to give their godsons, godchildren, the shares from the inheritance. So, and similarly, some their close buddies, they used to get inheritance from after their death. So Islam forbade that one. Whatever you want to give in your lifetime, you can give whatever. You want to give a car to your friend, you can give it to a car to your friend. You have an extra house, you want to give it to your adopted son, adopted daughter, you can do whatever you want to do. It's your wealth in your lifetime. But inheritance has a strict rules, and that also made the people of Jewish tradition very upset. So inshallah, we'll continue this one next week, and I'll take some question, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.